Hi guys, welcome back to a special edition video. As we all know, we've got a new manager. And as always, I like to hear from someone who's had to have the manager before and their thoughts on it. And it could only be with Mike. So let's get into it. I don't really need to give old Mike an introduction, but if you don't know who he is, one of the nicest guys in the world and a fellow YouTuber over on Blue Boys Network. The link is in the title. Go show him some love. Make sure you subscribe there to him and John because their content is next level, especially when Everton lose. But Everton, as I predicted, are doing very well right now. So make sure you go subscribe there. Make sure you've liked and subscribed here if you're new. Mikey, what are you saying, bro?
Mate, it's a weird turnaround, isn't it? I remember being on here 12 months ago, 18 months ago, beat the drop, and I'm going, sack Dyche. I've had enough of him. The football's turgid. And you were laughing at me, Wolfie. You were literally laughing at me. The fan base was all over it, blah, 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 blah. And now we are here, my friend. I look outside looking in. This is crazy. This is crazy. And I was reading about some of the managers that were in the running. I don't get Dyche. I don't get it. I don't get the decision at all.
He lives in Nottingham, mate. So
you were never ultimately in a relegation battle. The table after 8 games can read whatever it wants. To be honest, with a team of the quality that you've got, it was right for Ange to go. Of course, it was. He'd done. Let's be fair. It'd been horrendous, but ultimately, the chairman who has backed the club, has supported the fan. You can't necessarily fault the chairman really, but I think these are 3 decisions that have been wildly mad. From Nuno to Ange to Dyche, 3 different styles of football in 10 days. And what are players like Morgan Gibbs-White thinking? When all of that happened in the summer, I just looking from the outside in. I can't believe the predicament that Forest find themselves in. This was meant to be the season where you guys, optimistic European football, you had all that stuffing going on in Europa League and Conference League, and you were meant to go into this season flying. And I honestly can't believe what's happened. Like I scratch my head.
Do you want me to cry? Is that what we're doing here?
No, mate. Look.
No?
Look. In terms of think of the absolute basic fundamentals of a Sean Dyche team. Big target man, tick. You got that, Chris Wood. Big target man. Players that can sort of play off him, tick. Strong defense tends to be usually this season been a bit ropey, but ordinarily last season good defense. You tick all of the Sean Dyche boxes. It's just a case of 3 managers, 10 games. It's just crazy.
Welcome to Forest, mate. Welcome to Forest. Let's start at the kind of beginning with him because it was Lampard, wasn't it, before him at Everton? And I remember Lampard was pretty damn dire at Everton. I know he kept you up. Famous scene with him standing in the stands when he stayed up on the last day and what have you. And he said never again. And then you found yourselves kind of almost in a relegation battle. And then Dyche came in. Like, how was it to start with Dyche?
I remember early on he did his press conference. His first game was Arsenal at Goodison, which is always a good game, and we won 1-0.
I remember that game, yeah.
But his press conference prior to that, I remember sitting there saying, the way that he's spoken has reassured me. Now, I've seen some of the comments that have been made, and I can see how they've won some Forest fans over. And look, for 12 months, Dyche is fine. But hasn't he signed a 2-year contract?
Yeah, until the end of next season, yeah.
And I just sit there and think, there's a transition with Dyche. He goes from keeping you up which, no disrespect, you are not in that battle. Whether you are in the table currently at the minute, you're not in that battle. That
agree.
will bypass you.
Mm.
You've gone from polar opposites on managers. And Sean Dyche, when he come into Everton, he got us solid. He got us winning 1-0. He did enough. But ultimately, when it comes to actually playing with attacking players and trying to change the brand of football and trying to be a little bit more charismatic, the type of football you're going to have to play in Europe, it was atrocious. It was atrocious. It was the worst football I've seen. And, you know, Everton are currently sitting 12th, had a mixed start to the season, in my opinion. Probably should be higher with some of the results, but we haven't really got strikers. Everyone knows Beto's poor and Barry's poor. But the brand of football we're playing under David Moyes, who was hounded out, is a million times better than what we've seen under Sean Dyche. So, yeah, from a Forest fan perspective, I think this is crazy. And as I said, there's 2 Forest fans I play football with, and we were talking, and I couldn't believe how happy they was with this appointment when I have seen how it transitions from good, confident, solid, delusional, falling apart. That's Dyche. That is Dyche.
So would you expect him, from your experience of him, to come in kind of is a bit of a pick me up, because Ange was not anyone's first choice when he came in, obviously no wins in 8 and everything. Do you expect him to have that initial kind of galvanizing impact on not just the squad but the fan base as well, get back to basics, make sure the defense is what it was under Nuno, maybe grind out some results that way, get people on side, even like me, say a doubter of him? You know, will I be seeing a couple of results, does enough, but just doesn't progress it? Because my issue with this appointment, Mikey, it's not really about Sean Dyche. It's about, as you said rightly at the start, this was meant to be our season back in Europe. I wanted to see Forest kick on, or at least sustain what they did last year. We had big promises from the owner. We had big spending in the summer. To have the players that we came in the summer, and for a lot of the fan base to now look at it and say, no, this is a relegation fight after 8 games, I agree, it's absolutely crazy. But I think I said this on one of my videos. I feel like Forest have said, right, let's just press the pause button for this season, get us to the end of the season, Sean Dyche, and then we'll reappoint someone else. But he did, as you say, he insisted on a longer term contract to protect himself, which means nothing really. Like, if he goes at the end of the season, if he's gonna go, he's gonna go, kind of thing. But yeah, I expected you to say some of this stuff. Obviously, we've known each other for a long time, bro, and I've seen your pain with Sean Dyche on streams and tears and everything else. But it's not just you. That's my issue with it, Mikey. Every Evertonian I know says the same thing. I've got a mate at work he's down at Everton, game in, game out. And he's in his 60s. He's like, he's the worst manager I've ever seen at Goodison. And I'm like, but he kept you up. No, he's the worst manager I've ever seen. Like, is that a sentiment that's shared by a lot of the Evertonians, or is it a generational thing with that?
The problem is with Sean Dyche. There is an argument, right, that for Everton, in Everton's situation, you know, the points deductions and everything, is there anyone better than Sean Dyche? Well, possibly, you know, a David Moyes type manager, but arguably at the time, Sean Dyche was the right fit. But you're not at crisis point. You know, when you look at where your team is and the squad that you've got, right, all you have to do is look back to Unai Emery coming in at Aston Villa, for example.
Yeah.
Steven Gerrard were roughly 18th, 17th in the league. I think it was 8 or 7,
Correct.
9 games in, whatever. He got them qualifying for Europe. He got them finishing in Europe that season. You are 9 points off the European spot based on current form now, which is 3 wins in a row. And to put that in perspective, Aston Villa, who started this season appallingly, have just won 3 games and now sit above Everton, who had a great start to the season. So the context of this, for me, is bonkers. And then when the managers that you've been linked with, other than Dyche, who I think would have been fine defensively and probably been more charismatic playing forward with the players that you've got, some of the signings that you made in the summer, the fact you held on to Morgan Gibbs-White, etc., etc., etc. It's what baffles me about this decision, and it's almost like you're right in saying the chairman's gone, right, we're just gonna stop the rot, but he stopped the rot too early. You've got 30 games, you've got a European campaign, and you've got Sean Dyche, right? And I was just looking at your fixtures. You have got Sean Dyche, his first game as Porter. Are you joking? What? What? Sean Dyche does not know how to set up against Porter. He doesn't. So that's crazy. Then you've got a tough trip to Bournemouth because Bournemouth are
We
decent.
always lose to Bournemouth.
Man United seems to be a different team. Then you've got Sturm Grass. I mean, it genuinely could be, right, that if he doesn't get it right, you could be languishing in the Europa League, which would be so disappointing after the season you had last season.
Yeah.
You could be struggling in terms of the league, in terms of just, Bournemouth away is a tough game. Man United, the way they're playing, could be a tough game. Or Sean Dyche could make you solid and you win 1-0. The problem with Sean Dyche is I don't know. And the other issue you have with it is Forest fans going to be looking forward to watching Dycheball. I watched Nuno's football, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't the most flash at times, but you always knew that you'd be on the edge of your feet on a counter attack. If you got the ball, the transition was quick. Trust me, I can't say that on the Sean Dyche. I can't say that on the Sean Dyche.
Is it, look, the arguments that come back from the Forest fans, a couple of things. I'd like your thoughts on it. One, he lives in Nottingham, even though he's born in Kettering, and apparently he's a Liverpool fan. That makes him one of our own. Secondly, he's bringing in Stone and Roan. I've got a soft spot for them, so I can't kind of argue that one. But the one that keeps doing the rounds that I want your opinion on is that he's never had a good squad. He's always had a shit squad, is what everyone keeps saying. And with a good squad, could he do better? And I think, in fact, he said himself he's always come into firefights and never into a team that's, where he's been backed or there's been money and everything like that. With the quality of players, obviously it's no disrespect to the team he had under you. I mean, we've discussed that team plenty of times. But let's just, for argument's sake, say the squad he's coming into in Forest is better than the one he had under Everton.
Yeah.
Does he need time to maybe see, okay, Sean, you've done the Burnley thing, you've done the Everton thing, you've done the firefighting. Here's a squad that's been put together. Do you think there's any kind of legs in that argument?
Possibly. But your issue you have, in my opinion, is why do you want firefighting? You're 8 games in, 2 games in Europa League, I think it is.
Yeah.
You don't need a firefighter. You don't need a firefighter. You need a manager that's going to get you on the front foot, use the quality that you bought in the summer. You don't need a manager that is going to set up with no wingers, going long and just look for knockdowns. You just don't need it. You don't need the corners. You need football that's going to get you off your feet. You're 8 games into a season. You win 1 game. You win 1 game, you're 15th. Yeah. Next game, you're 11th, 12th.
We just see that Man U won 2 games and they're now 3 points behind second place. They were 1 point above us.
It's the tightest league I've known in years. It's the most competitive league I've known in years. Even Liverpool down. Liverpool look bang average. So everyone, apart from maybe Arsenal, who look decent, but every single team is beatable this season. Yeah. Every single one. And Forest have got more than enough quality under the right manager to play the right brand of football and to get results. The longer we talk about this, the more I sit there and think, I feel so sorry for Forest fans who think this is acceptable based on your season last season and where you are right now. You are much better than Sean Dyche. It's the equivalent, right, of having enough money to buy a Ferrari and then rocking up in a Ford. Doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. You've got a lovely F458 Spider in red,
Okay.
gleaming, and you rock up in a 52 plate Ford Focus. It's crazy. It's crazy. Look, and the other thing I would say, look, as I say, this season, right, this will be solid. You'll finish 10th. That sort of thing. You'll finish 10th.
Mm.
But how are you going to build on that next season
Yeah.
when Dyche destroys your brand of football? Your players have turned because you don't want to stay with that manager. He's then committed to another year. What is Marinakis's what's his target with Dyche? Is his target with Dyche to say, right, you've still got to qualify for Europe, or you've got to finish in the top 8, or you've got to have a cup run, or whatever it is? Ultimately, he's got to be held accountable, because if you finish 10th and you guys after 8 games think that's a good season based on the fact you are literally 7 points off that position, then you deserve better. You deserve better. The mentality should be better. You are a big football team with European football coming off the back of a sensational season. You shouldn't be pleased with Dyche. And look, there'll be lots of Forest fans that'll be like, Mike, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know. But we also have a proud history. We also are a big football team, and we also, by the end, were sick to our back teeth of him. And he had to go. Did he do a good job in the first season? Absolutely. But you're nowhere near the mess we were in. You never needed to go as low as Dyche. Never. Never.
If I had to ask you about his kind of setup, so what's his go-to formation? I think he had a couple with you. I seem to remember 4-4-1-1 with like Decore
Yeah.
in the 10, and then sometimes a 4-2-3-1. Is that kind of what he played with you? What was the kind of go-to with him?
Yeah, it is. It is, but it was really weird because the way that he sets up. So on the transition, he'll play a 4-2-3-1, or it'll be a 4-4-1-1. But in the defensive line, when you're defending, it'll turn into like a 6-3-1. And your two wingers will just drop into the back four. You'll be a dead line, and you'll have a man in the middle. As was Njai, for example, he would come in from the left, he would sit in the middle of the park, he would get the ball, and he would go. And that ultimately is how I suspect you guys are going to play. And it'll be someone who's absolutely rapid in your team will drop into the middle, get the ball from a defender, turn and go. Chris Wood will peel off. And we already know Chris Wood's a good finisher, etc., etc., etc. And when he's on his form, etc. But your issue is in general play. So the transition's fine. That's okay. It's defensive to attack, fine. But it's when you're going up against a Sunderland or a Leeds or a Burnley, or some of the teams that are down the bottom. Even I don't mean to be disrespectful, but Wolves, West Ham.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to break teams down. So it'll be corners. You'll rely on corners. You'll rely on set pieces, and if you're a fantasy man, you stick your centre halves in your dream team at the minute, because trust me, they're going to be the ones. They're going to be used as headers. We had it with Michael Keane. We had it with Jared Branthwaite, Tarkowski. The ball would ping over to the back post. They would head it back in the box, and you'd hope it landed to an Everton head. And I think we scored 14 corners or something under Dyche. And
I saw 41 or 42% of your goals were from set pieces.
Correct. Yeah, correct. We hadn't. So this was I think it was a genuine stat. We hadn't scored a goal from open play in 9 months.
Shut up.
Swear to God. I'm sure that was the stat. It was either 9 months or like 16 games or something stupid. We couldn't score a goal from open play.
Also, he did an interview today where it was with Colin Frey, who's a top bloke, but he did almost accidentally call him out, saying that Sean Dyche hasn't kept a clean sheet in his last 20 games.
Yeah.
So all this, because this is the narrative that's been pushed. Even Forest have pushed the narrative that he's tactically astute, that his ethic, his ethos lines up with the club. Defensively, he's organized. But was it that organized? I mean, 20 games in a row without a clean sheet to finish off with Everton. And you look at, I was looking at the stats, mate. In that 24-25 season, 17 Premier League games played, 2 wins, 7 draws, and 8 defeats. You scored 0.85 goals per game and conceded 1.3, and he had a 20% win ratio.
Yeah.
Did the stats lie? Was it that bad?
Yeah, it was worse. It was worse because it was really weird because if you actually look back to last December, we got a point away at Arsenal, I think it was, point at Chelsea, points against Man United, and you come to our place and beat us 2-0. And that was the game. That was the game where people turned on him because we were like, how can you go and set up brilliantly against all of these other teams? We got a point against Man City at Man City on Boxing Day. We played you, I think, on the 28th or the 29th. And we were awful. We were absolutely awful. And all you need to do then, right? So as Forest fans, and I don't mean to bring up memories because we were possibly the beginning of your downfall, I think. But compare that game against Everton at Goodison Park, and then compare the game Everton against you guys at your place. We wasn't brilliant that day. We got a 1-0 win at your place, but ultimately, I think we probably were the better team, and I think we did have the more chances. I think you started to push at the end, but left that gap. But ultimately, that's the difference between Sean Dyche football and David Moyes football. And you saw the difference. You saw the difference in Everton under the two managers you've seen. You had a manager in Sean Dyche that would say we were underdogs. He was getting the most out of his players. His last press conference for Everton, he came out and went, I am getting my absolute best out of these players. This is all they've got. We were sitting 19th in the league, I think, at the time. He gets sacked the day of the game, which...
Oh, that was the Peterborough game, wasn't it?
Yeah, he gets sacked the day of the game. We win the Peterborough game. We then play Aston Villa at home. We lose the game 1-0. David Moyes' first game. And then after that, we never looked back. We never looked back. And it's taken the best part of half the season to unravel how poor that football was. We started scoring goals from open play. We started playing through the lines again. And for a team in Forest who would play and score goals on the counter and be really quick down in play, and you'd have Hudson-Odoi and Elanga last season, for example. Yeah. I just don't get how this fits. I just don't get how this fits. You had this Nuno, which was a slightly defensive, but knew how to attack the right time. You had Ange, who was all out attack, would leave the craziest backline in the world. And now you've got Sean Dyche, who doesn't know how to attack. I just, from a Forest fan's perspective, I get like, it's always refreshing having a new manager, new ideas, new optimism. But I don't get any of the optimism around Sean Dyche. I really don't. And, it feels like I'm almost battering him, but.
No, but I feel like we kind of needed to hear this because I actually get a lot of what you're saying. And I think he's been given the easiest mandate in football. Stay up. I think me and you could manage Forest to stay up this season, mate.
Mate, I can't.
The standards of in this is in 7 weeks. We've gone from everyone saying I think Forest was second or third favorite to win the Europa League.
Yeah.
And now we're 6 weeks down the road, and everyone said just stay up.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
But how can? Right, and I ask the Forest fans because I will read the comments. Like I always read the comments. I'll go into the comments. I know you'll all be brilliant and you'll say lovely things about me, and I appreciate it. But I want to ask you guys as Forest fans in the comments, tell me what your target for this season is now. Because if your target is simply now to stay up, I'm telling you now, there are 3 teams at a bare minimum that are considerably worse than Forest, if not 10. Honestly, this Forest team, with the players that they've got, with the signings that they made, with the strength that Maranatha showed in certain situations against other clubs, Tottenham, etc., I can't get over Maranatha saying to Sean Dyche, just keep us up. Crazy. It's crazy. And I think I don't know if Forest fans are questioning the chairman, and look, he's been a good chairman too.
There are some, yeah.
But he deserves a question. He deserves it. How have we gone from whatever happened with Nuno? I don't know the story, but whatever happened with Nuno to the absolute farce that was Ange Postecoglou. I mean, how much has he had to be paid out to leave?
Apparently 7 mil. Apparently 7 mil. And that's what stopped us going in properly for Marco Silva, because he's got that 14 mil release clause or whatever it is.
And then for Sean Dyche, it's almost like going, we write this season off.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And Sean Dyche, at the end of this season, the only way you repair this is he just does one season. But then in my opinion, you've wasted European football for the year. You've wasted the opportunity. You might lose a few players. And it's not because Forest are a bad team. It's just simply because the way that the Premier League is now, one bad season and you are down the pecking order. It's so easy. I mean, Aston Villa probably won't finish in the top 6 this season. They've had they would have just rotated because they can't keep up. Newcastle had a good season. There's loads of teams that just can't keep up with that big 6, etc. But the only way you can try is by being consistent with your approach, and to have these 3 different types of managers for a Forest team that is really capable on paper of causing the big teams a real problem. It's just fucking crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I purposely haven't spoken to you about this because I wanted to have this conversation. This is the first time me and you have sat down and spoke about this, and I find it fascinating in what you're saying, especially as an outsider looking in. You've always been objective, and I would say had a little soft spot for Forest in the way you've spoken about Forest. So that's why I kind of wanted to do this with you, just to give the guys an opinion. Now, you're not sitting here and saying Sean Dyche is going to relegate Forest or anything like that. If I'm reading you right, you're saying he's going to comfortably keep us up, but he has his ceiling and he has his limits. Kind of okay for a 1-season project, but what is it costing us in the long run?
Your expectations, even after 8 games, should be higher than Sean Dyche. Your expectations should still be, we can qualify for Europe. It still should. As I said before, Aston Villa did it. They went from Steven Gerrard to Unai Emery, and they got European football. Yeah. There is zero reason Forest can't do it. And realistically, how many points did you pick up in your last 8 games last season? I'm not expecting you to know that, by the way. But
bro, like 1 win against Spurs and a couple of draws, like 5 or 6. Nothing. The decline had started.
Yeah. So all you've done is mirror the tail end of last season. So if you don't have a tail of last season, there's absolutely no reason you can't have the same season you had for the 30 games prior.
Yeah,
this is what I mean. It's bonkers. It's bonkers. And look, I don't know what other managers were available. I saw Roberto Mancini being linked. I think he would have been a better fit. I also saw Roberto Martinez. I think he might have been a better fit. But ultimately, if Forest owner and some Forest fans are genuinely writing in the comments, my expectation is we'd get relegated after 8 games with the team you've got, I really want you to look in the mirror and think, because you are better than this. I'm saying it as an outsider looking in with a bit of a soft spot for Forest. You are better than what you are right now.
I think that's a lovely way to end this. Guys, get your answers into Mike's questions there. What are your expectations here today, right now? And Mike will be reading those comments. And make sure you've gone over and subscribed to Mike's channel and John's channel. The link is in the title. Make sure you've liked, make sure you subscribe. I hope this has helped. This is an objective approach. I know a lot of people, they're not liking hearing anything negative or objective right now about Sean Dyche, but we like to cover kind of all angles here. So, Mikey, it's been an absolute pleasure is the word I'm looking for. And we've got to do more stuff. We keep saying we're going to do it, and then life gets in the way. Yeah. Thank you for watching. We'll see you for the first game for Sean. I was going to say Shawn Michaels. Sean Dyche.
What was the kick? What was it? He had that move, didn't he, in wrestling? That's what you need to do.
Preaching music.
Yeah, sweet music.
The Heartbreak Kid. We'll see you for Porto. Come on, you Reds.